Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Are you ready for a rewarding career in the electrical industry? Quality Electric of the Coastal Carolinas, QECC, is looking for qualified electricians and electrical helpers to join its Charleston team. QECC offers guaranteed full-time hours, make up to $30 per hour with possible performance bonuses and career growth opportunities. Enjoy benefits like health insurance, dental and vision coverage, 401k plans, and more. If you're a motivated, experienced electrician, this job is for you. QECC is an equal opportunity employer. For all job inquiries, send email to hr@qeccinc.com.
Coming up on The Payoff, Debra Olson spent more than 25 years working as a hairdresser in the film industry. So it is no surprise her story is ripped from a Hollywood script. She moved to LA as a teen and the party was just getting started. Her run in movies and TV was legendary in and out of the studio, and her collapse was just as epic. Now 19 years sober, she describes how she got to the other side. And along the way in this conversation, she drops some serious gems on how she stays serene. Speaking of serenity, this guy was on CBS, CBS National this week, and also had a piece done on him on KTLA in Los Angeles. Guy does some great work with the Jimmy Miller Fund out there, teaching guys and girls with PTSD how to surf. I'm talking about Kevin Souza.
Stand by the ocean floor.
Good morning.
Debra.
Peter.
All right. How's it going?
Oh, gosh. Got home from LA, safe and sound. It was an easy drive and got my house all clean this morning and I'm ready to chit-chat, had my coffee.
Oh, you're in Monterey and you went down to LA.
I went to LA because I worked there for 40 years and I drive back every 6 weeks to see clients.
And you live, so what are you looking at right now? I mean, are you like if you were to go outside?
I'm looking at the Pacific Ocean. I'm looking at the bay, the Monterey Bay. I'm above, do you know Monterey, Carmel, San Francisco?
I'm an amateur. I saw Big Little Lies, so I think I know Monterey, but I don't know Monterey.
You saw Big Little Lies. It's so funny, but he asked me about that. I'm like, I've never seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
The Monterey, Carmel, Pacific Grove, it's all this little isolated peninsula. There's no freeways, and San Francisco's about 100 miles from here, north. And you can take the coast up either way, but it's a lot longer.
You make that drive every 6 weeks?
Every 6 weeks I do that. I got out of LA because, LA's not a place to get old in, and I went there in my early 20s. And I just drove like a bat out of hell till the wheels fell off. And then I got sober when I was 42. And I'm just now turning 61 in August.
So you'll have 20 years coming up here. Yeah, in February. Wow. So I want to get into your story because it's fascinating. The way we got together is sort of cosmic.
Yeah, I did, what's her name?
Julie Hayes.
Yeah, I did her hair.
The great Julie Hayes.
Yeah, I did her hair. We got to chatting and I said that I'd moved up from LA, I'd worked in Beverly Hills and film business and blah, blah, blah. I said until I couldn't do it anymore and the wheels fell off and everybody ended up in rehab.
So yeah, you and she gave me a call and said, I got the perfect guest for you. And then we called you, we got to talking.
Yeah, that's what it was. And she goes, and I told her about, all the movies and film and the cocaine and the alcohol. And it was mad. It was mad fun in the 80s and 90s. Fun. It was,
just so you know, we've already started, okay? And because this is too good, I can't take this stuff out.
Okay.
And I want to back up a little. What did you do in the movie and film industry?
Okay, I started my little life up in Northern California in a place called Sacramento, and then Roseville, little tiny suburb. And I got my hairdressing license when I was 17 because my mom said, "You're a piece of shit. You're not going to be anything. You may as well just, do hair and makeup because all you think about is, making everybody pretty." I thought, okay, sounds good. So I did. Thank God she was a bitch and told me to do that because it was a very lucrative career. But right away, I wanted out of that little small community. So I thought, where am I going to go? LA. So I was really young. That's my early 20s, and I hit the road.
Were you drinking a lot as a kid?
Oh, God, yeah. I started drinking when I was about 4 years old. I was a toddler. My mom and dad both were alcoholics. They were divorced. My mom had gin and tonic on the table. She had cough medicine. She had all kind of. I took anything that said causes drowsiness, even though I couldn't read.
Anything with a stick figure, right? That was like falling over. I was like, okay, give me that, right? That logo.
You know what? I remember I grew up in this really affluent neighborhood, and we all had horses, and it all looked real pretty on the outside. And here's me in the 7th grade. Anybody got any weed? Mess? But they were giving me freaking oregano to smoke, and out of the garbage can, whatever would make me get me out of me. I was arrested. My first arrest, I was 12 years old. All my friends were a little bit older than me. I wanted to be mature and grown up, so my friends are all 15, and then their friends are 18. We're driving around in the middle of the night. We had Benny's, if anybody remembers Benny's beans, upper speed.
Yes, okay, Benny's like greenies almost.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we were eating those to lose weight, me and my girlfriend. So I'm 12, she's 15. Please pull us over in our private little neighborhood. Please took me home. They're like, how old are you? And I'm 12. And they're like, oh, geez, little girl. And they took me home. My parents beat the shit out of me, my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad was molesting me, and I wanted out.
So you're home getting abused by this guy.
I'm home getting abused and molested, and they're drinking and showing, and he's showing me off. Like my little stepdaughter, and she hot, and they're all talking about it. It was awful. And then the next door neighbor got his, after that guy died, the next door neighbor got his hands on me, and I was 15, babysitting, and they were best friends. I mean, I had a screwed up start to this whole journey. Screwed up life. So by the time I was 15, I was being kicked out. I was running away. I was high. I was drunk. I was teaching my friends how to drink. I get my hairdressing license, thank God, and I bought a car and I blew out of there.
Some people get the double whammy, right, Debra? Like you have a dysfunctional, like an extremely dysfunctional upbringing, and it sounds like you had the alcoholism in your blood. That's a rough start.
I had a double whammy. I wasn't wanted. Most parents fight to have the kids. They fought who wasn't going to get me. And I had a twin sister who my mom pitted against me. She went on her journey. We don't talk to this day. I went one way, she went the other, and she's my twin sister. And then I had an older brother, and he escaped and went in the military right away. So my only rock disappeared. He was gone, and my disease took flight. I was around 11 or 12.
When did you get involved in hairdressing? When did you know that's something you wanted to do?
I was always just kind of playing in my bedroom with my girlfriend, doing hair and makeup, and it was just something I liked doing. Made me feel pretty because I was such a mess inside. So I was so OCD. I was cleaning my bedroom and putting makeup on, and a ton of makeup and doing hair. I just wanted to be anybody but me. And so my mom said, you're a piece of shit. Go to hairdressing school. You may as well learn how to. It's all you do anyway. You're not smart. You're stupid. And little did she know that was a real good move.
And so, what happens when you're 17 and you move out of there?
Oh God, I know. I was 17, still living at home, going to beauty school. Oh God, I was blowing the instructor. He was 33. I was going deer hunting, drinking whiskey, and blowing the instructor.
The hairdressing. So there's just it's a mess.
It's a mess. It is somehow I managed to graduate beauty school, go to San Francisco, get my license right away, went to a salon and made a little bit of money. And I think I ended up at my sister's first. It's also, if you held my life up, it's like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of it. I don't remember the sequences. But I think I ended up at my sister's house in Monterey area because she had left. She got married at 18 and moved back. Then met some guy, moved to Monterey area. she was doing her own drugs and alcohol situation, and she was abusing me. And anyway, I met this guy who, I'm a raging drug addict and alcoholic, out of control, immature maniac. And I meet a guy who had gone to West Point. So he's a stellar human being.
Yeah.
Stellar, smart, in the Army, flying helicopters. He's a captain.
Where'd you meet him?
Pardon me?
Where did you meet him?
I met him doing hair in Monterey.
Gotcha.
When I was 21 years old, I think I was. And moved in with him right away. And he was having none of it in short order.
Okay.
He was conservative from Michigan, and he figured out right away that, I was young, I was cute. These guys were falling in love with me. And shortly thereafter, they're like, oh, this little girl's a mess.
Well, it's funny though. And I can similar stories. At least at times in the beginning of my addiction, I was kind of always attracted to solid people. I guess you would say people. I don't know if I was looking for them to fix me or whatever, but I definitely. I never was turned off by people like that, like people that had it together. But I didn't last very long in those circles at all.
I didn't either. I mean, I had a guy from West Point fall in love with me, a guy from Annapolis. I had some stellar human beings.
Do you think that had anything to do with your brother going into the service? Like that made those guys attractive?
Zero. No, nothing. It was just by happenstance, that I loved these guys that were conservative and straight, that they could pull me out of the hell that I was in, I think.
Just to back up a little bit, you mentioned, you're suffering abuse as a very young girl, and then you get into like almost maybe what could be seen as like a transactional relationship with this instructor at the hairdressing school. Do you think it all starts? I mean, obviously the alcoholism, I'm like you, we're just filling that black hole, at least for me it was. But also at the same time, do you think it starts with that abuse? Like, not just the alcoholism, but the abuse element.
You know what? Knowing what I know now and having 100 different forms of treatment and, every spiritual, I'm 61 now. This journey started a long time ago. And when I look back, oh God, I was looking for anybody to fix me. I was looking for daddy figures. I was dating men 60 when I was 20. I got into relationships. Anyone that said I love you or I like you, I don't care who they were. I was gonna go with that. Anyone that liked me, fixed me, pick me, love me. That's all I could do was fix me, pick me, love me.
What was your favorite drug to do?
I didn't care. Honestly, I didn't care. It was just that in the 80s, with the big cocaine influx, when I got to LA, that was everything. It was so acceptable.
What year did you get to LA?
I'm sorry?
What year did you get to LA?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. I was around. The West Point guy broke up with me, and of course I didn't know why back then. He was. I feel his struggle later in life. I kept all his love notes and everything. It was all the love notes I kept. They were all peppered with "I love you," but I wish you knew how much I loved you. I didn't believe anybody could love me, so I left him, or he broke up with me because I was a crazy drunk at that time, and I got my little car with a little stuffed animal he gave me, and I drove to Southern California. Somebody knew somebody in Laguna. I ended up spending the night there. I went to ABC television. Somebody gave me the name of the guy at the head of makeup. I called till they hated me, and they gave me a job.
So what's that like? How did you get your foot in the door? I mean, obviously we know how you get your foot in the door at ABC, but was that your big break?
That was because you have to be in the union or you have to have work. It's catch-22. But you see, when I was young and hot and cute and invincible and a drug and alcohol, my cocaine started down there too. And the drinking was way out of control. And I ended up finding a roommate who he was an ex-bodybuilder. And if I look back, he was just a creep. He was in his 40s and he loved young girls. and he was just, he was as round and fat as he was tall and short and fat and bald. And I moved in with this guy as a roommate. He didn't care if I paid the rent.
Because you're an attractive younger woman.
He took me to the Bahamas. he drove me to ABC television. I just happened to have gotten a name from a guy, or somebody gave me the name of the guy, the head of the department. And I called every day. I said, I'm calling for Rudy. I'm calling for Rudy. This is Debra. Finally, he took the call and said, it's people like you that get ahead in this business because, you're pissing everybody off.
So at that point in time, you start working. Are you working on like?
I got a job for a general hospital.
Oh, okay.
Doing hair. And what was so funny is I've been watching General Hospital since I was 16. So all these people that I know, they're coming in the green room and I'm doing their hair.
Luke and Laura. I mean, that's it. That's.
Oh yeah, all of it. Yeah. So they're all coming in and I don't have all the girls that worked there were like, oh, were you in the union? I'm like, no, I was dumb and stuff. Well, in short order, they wanted me gone. These girls did not want me there because all the people liked me, the stars, because I'm sitting in a green room talking and flirting with all the actors and the guys and the girls, everybody. And all the actors came out from New York because we did this all-star thing. They're wearing my earrings and we're all chatting. I don't know who's doing drugs. I don't know who's not. I'm just doing my deal. I don't know what's going on. I didn't know what's going on. I was just this little girl from the stick.
How did it evolve, your drug use, like on a daily basis? I know I listened to Demi Moore interviewed once. She I think she had to turn on that show, and she talked about getting involved with whoever the actor was. It was Luke, which I'm sure you know.
Yeah, I don't want to name. I won't name
sure.
any names, of
Sure.
course. But I ended up seeing a lot of people fast forward when I got sober when I was 42. Some of those. I remember going up to one of the actresses and saying, remember me? I was on the show and I was doing hair. She's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, And she was still a train wreck. So I had gotten even some time, and she still couldn't get sober. So there's a lot of. I just say everybody ended up in rehab at some stage. I actually never did go to rehab. I didn't have the money. I wasn't a famous person. The wheels had fallen off. I was blackballed, basically. I got a job at a hair salon, which I don't want to name names of people or places.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
why did you get blackballed?
Because I was I was a drunk and a drug addict. And I didn't know it at that time, but because I didn't know why nobody would hire me after a while. So I started freelancing. I would meet photographers and I would freelance and I would there was always drugs and alcohol everywhere. And when the druggies and the drunk kick you out, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's always like the Steven Adler getting kicked out of Guns N' Roses. It's like, okay.
Exactly. But I still didn't know I had a problem. I still didn't know why people wouldn't hire me. So then I was going all over Beverly Hills because I thought I was the shit. I really did. I thought I was a famous hairdresser and the wheels are falling off and I'm getting a job at this famous hair salon and that famous hair salon. And they're all drunks and druggies. But I'm getting 86 everywhere. But I still don't know why because I thought I was so good and I was so hot and I was so wonderful. But I couldn't show up. I could get hired. I could pull my shit together for a minute. They'd hire me, and then I wouldn't show up.
I always say that, like the alcohol, if you have alcoholism or drug addiction, like it's sooner or later, the drug addict is showing up. You can do great for an interview. You can do great for the first month, but at some point, for me, the junkie was walking through those doors.
Oh no, exactly. So it got to the point where I thought everybody was doing blow on their station. They weren't. I was, because I thought I was that cool, and guys are asking owners of the salon if they can do me, shit like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had a part in any of this. I didn't think I had a part in any of it. I had a part in all of it. I was men and alcohol and drugs. It was all one and the same.
It all came together, right?
It all was one and the same.
Yeah,
you were giving me drugs, I was screwing you. I was accused of things, however, that I wasn't doing. But it sure looked like it. I'm in the dressing room with guys. They're giving me blow. I'm not blowing them or screwing them. Eventually, maybe I was, but I was doing their drugs, and drinking.
What was the culture like on those television sets, without naming names? But was it open? Because I've read and heard, everybody. People sometimes on the staff would supply actors with cocaine. I mean, was it that rampant?
God, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. And what was even more, I started taking an acting class, an improv class. And I started going to parties with people and actors and producers and all this stuff. And I can tell you that whatever crazy shit you see on TV, the movie Shampoo, it is 100,000% accurate.
Okay.
You know, I remember moving in with, I don't even remember, I was renting a room or something, or I could have been a nanny even, you know, for this. It just came to me. I was hired as a nanny for a druggie, for a cocaine addict. They had this big, huge, fat house out in the valley, and she was doing blow all the time. She had a Jaguar. So she gives me the Jag so I can look like the shit.
Was she an actress?
No,
Okay.
I don't remember. She may have been in the film business. I don't remember. But I had a boyfriend that was supplying us with the blow, and he would come. And I remember taking her car, and I went to this party. It was, you walked in the front door, and it was just bowls of blow, swimming pools, naked people, orgies, party people everywhere. It was madness, but it was real life. It was real life. I thought it was normal, and I was in my early 20s, a girl riding horses through the country, smoking oregano. Just seemed to be bald. To my great pleasure.
And this is LA in the 80s, where people really aren't turning their nose up at cocaine, or maybe they are, right? Because it's not really looked down upon. Are you seeing people work? You know, are you seeing a lot of people like work on cocaine, and maybe seeing people have the occasional meltdown on the set? Are you seeing it all?
The stuff that people were having breakdowns, you were seeing people breaking down. You saw people, you know, you do enough of this stuff. I remember being up for 5 days in a row. And I remember standing, was either on set or we were either filming or shit. Something was going on. But I remember a couple of us, we were standing huddled up eating a daisy. They were staring at us. They're all looking at us. And I'm like, because we're fucking eating flowers, man. We're eating flowers. We gotta get out of here. And we turn around, and I think we either hid in a closet or hid somewhere. We were jonesing. We started coming up with passwords to get out and go
on a major
class.
television or movie set.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable telling me some of the sets, some of the shows and movies you worked on?
No, I like I said, I'm not going to give any people out. Never in a million years would I do that. But I saw a lot of these people later in the room. A lot of them. A lot of them are not. Some of them died, and some of them are sober, and some of them are trying to get sober.
So as you move through this career, and I totally respect that. You move through this career, and you're kind of flying. Obviously, you're flying way too close to the sun, but you're flying like literally and figuratively. Your career is probably taken off. It's so empowering. I had a situation when I was drinking and using, and I worked in the NBA. And I was doing public relations, and you're constantly around the players, and you're constantly in the locker room. Once in a while, you'll hang out with them, or you'll travel with the team. And it's very easy to leverage the continued use and partying against, like, well, look, I'm doing this. You know, I have to, you know, I could make sense of it. And then I couldn't make sense of it anymore because I didn't have any more of this. I was alone, doing drugs and drinking all the time. And, you know, what was it for you that kind of brought you to your knees when you were like, oh boy, you can't leverage anything against getting sober anymore?
Well, the party rolled so fast and for so long that you made a lot of money doing hair, and then we spent it all. And I was living from rental to rental, from guy to guy, from, you know, all over California, be going here. I did a movie in Santa Cruz, went back to LA. I mean, it was madness. It was 100% out of control madness.
What was, if you could put your finger on, what was the craziest story for you? Like when you look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I lived through that. Or,
you know what? There were so many. I remember one incident. I was living with a guy out in the valley, and this was coming towards the end of the bottom. And again, he was going to be a savior. He was straight. He was conservative. He lived in a house up in the hills, and he was a dentist, and he was going to save me, and I was going to be okay. He had kids. We were going to get married. I was going to well, again, we went out. I partied. He doesn't. I move in with him because that was my MO. I go on a date with you and I move in because I was cute. I was young. I think that was in my early 30s. But there were a million incidents. Well, he kicked me out ultimately, and I was living in his garage. And then to make money, this girl called me. It was a girl we did a film with. She was a hooker. She called me, said, "Do you need money?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're going to go to the Beverly Hills Hotel. We're going to have sex with this guy, and you get $500." I'm like, "Okay." So I show up. I'm crawling on my hands and knees in bra and panties, and I didn't want to have sex with him. So it was as quick as $500 for no sex, I ever had in my life. He did the sex, and I pretended he was really drunk, and I think I was kissing her and sitting on his lap. I don't know what's going on, but I didn't screw him. I didn't blow him. And I got $500. I mean, it was just gross. But I did it, and then I went back and slept in my boyfriend's garage. I mean, there was that. Then there was a car accident, where I broke my hips in 16 places, my shoulder. I jumped out of a car going 55 miles an hour.
Were you in a fight with somebody?
It was a boyfriend. He was a crazy person. He was a con man. I got involved with creeps and crazy people, and he was a druggie and a con man, and it was either jump out of the car or have him kill you, one or the other.
Yeah.
And that was just one of the stories. I ended up in the hospital. I'm broken, busted to pieces. He tried to make restitution, so gives me a pile of diamonds. I end up in Boulder Creek, broken up. I can't drive. I can't walk. I end up in Boulder Creek, going to a bar, giving the bartender fake diamonds for beer. I mean, it was just crazy story after crazy story. None of these things would have ever happened in my life had I never been an abused, crazy, poor me victim. Everybody had abused, and her poor little Debbie. So fast forward, the wheels are falling off. I'm 42 years old. Once again, I can't get a job. I'm blackballed. Everybody knows I'm a drunk and a drug addict. I'm in Beverly Hills, living with some old man, 90-some-odd-year-old man. I found an ad.
90?
He was a 92-year-old man that was blind and shitting on himself, ready to die, and he needed a caretaker. So they were paying me, I think, $100 a week or some shit to take care of this old man and giving me a credit card to buy food. Well, we both know that food consists of copious amounts of beer and wine because that's what they sell at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
So I would buy food. I thought, oh, this is wonderful. I'm living in Beverly Hills. Don't have to do anything. I've got a piece of shit car parked in the garage. It's just a druggy car in the garage. Years before that, the cocaine kind of ended on its own. I just sort of left the film business, or blackballed from the film business, blackballed from everywhere. It was a big city, but a small town, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And everybody knew this girl's a drunk and a drug. I can't get a job. So the cocaine just kind of ended. I'm broke. I have no money. I'm living with this old man, taking care of him, cleaning up shit because he's trying to scoop it out of his ass because he's an old guy. And I'm drinking around the clock now. I'm not doing drugs, but I'm drinking around the clock. Calling Pink Dot, they're delivering. I'm drinking beer and wine on their credit card all night long. And for days on end. And I remember very distinctly after a few days run, and I had really long blonde hair, and I was 42, and I still thought I could maintain for a minute. But when I was drinking out of a brown paper bag, walking the streets of Beverly Hills, all dressed up, thinking I was the shit.
Yeah.
Still. And said some expletives in a very, very nice restaurant in Beverly Hills, and they asked me to leave. And so I decided, park the car, leave the car, drink in the house, and that's all you need to do. And that's what I did. And it got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was drinking around the clock. And
how was your health?
Day,
did you have any health problems?
Well, I was I was 42. I had cut all my hair off because I got really drunk and decided I need to bleach my hair with Clorox bleach. I'm a hairdresser, by the way, you know that.
Yeah.
And I bleached my hair with Clorox bleach, and I cut it all off because I think I'm going to be a punk now. I can change my identity. I'm going to be a punk. Well, I woke up and I was crawling on the floor. My beautiful skin had turned to spots. I was 100 pounds, and I looked like a 70-year-old man. And I looked in the mirror, I remember, and I went, "You are so fucked." And by this time, Peter, I wasn't having fun anymore. It had been years and years since I'd had fun. So now it was just a suicide run. For years, it had just been, you're just going to die. You're a piece of shit. You've never been worth anything anyway. And now it's just time to die. Your life's over. You know, and it was years I've been trying to just kill myself. And so I remember waking up on the floor, beer bottles and wine everywhere. I don't know where the old man was. I think they had taken the old man out, or he died or something. I don't remember. But I was alone. Alone. I think it was after the stuffed animal Thanksgiving. I had a stuffed animal Thanksgiving.
Just you and the stuffed animal.
Me and stuffed animals. It was Thanksgiving. I didn't have a friend in sight. I didn't have any friends.
And what year is this around?
This was around 19. I got sober 2002. So this was probably around 2001.
Okay.
Maybe. And I'm in the house. The guy had moved out. It's Thanksgiving. I have no friends. I have no family. Nothing to do. My brother was still alive, but I wasn't really seeing him. He was still nice to me and talked to me because he enabled me as much as he could. And then, I didn't want to go to his house for Thanksgiving. I couldn't drink.
Isn't that crazy? I wouldn't go anywhere where I couldn't get drunk.
Yeah, I was just down the rabbit hole. I just didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to drive all the way to Monterey where he lived, so the last Thanksgiving was just me and a bunch of stuffed animals, and it was real for me. I dressed them all up. I set them around the dining table, and I made food, and I put a long Glinda the Good Witch dress on and a tiara, and I had a party. I was hammered, and I bought champagne with their credit card. So, oh God, it was bad. Well, when at 42 years old, and it was February 2002, I was on my knees, and I remember many times over the years, I had looked at Dr. Wayne Dyer, I looked at Marianne Williamson, I had looked at the Krishnas and the Buddhists, and I thought I was this spiritual person via all these avenues, but I never picked one. I never had an awareness of any kind. And when I was fast backwards, when I was 15, I had been molested by the neighbor. That was in the church, the Christian church. So the Christians were all fucked up assholes as far as I was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want any part of any organized religion at all. I didn't trust a soul. I'm sober. I get sober at 42. I don't trust a soul, not a man, not a woman. I don't trust anybody. My own family hates me, except my brother. I didn't have any frame of reference for love or self-respect, or the wheels had fallen off. I crashed and burned, and I called Alcoholics Anonymous, and somebody on the phone, I even screamed at the guy and said, "I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to a woman." And this really nice lady called me, and we talked for a long time. And I told her, if you had my life, you'd be fucked up too. It was poor me, me. Don't you know? And I need to die. I'm not worthy of getting sober. I'm not. She couldn't have been kinder. She was the nicest lady. Her name was Janet. She sent over a couple, this very nice couple. Their name was Paul and I don't remember. Anyway, this very nice couple came and picked me up out of that apartment. February, I think it was, I don't know, it was before February 2nd, because I went to this meeting in Beverly Hills where she said, "Raise your hand and say I'm an alcoholic."
Were you loaded when they picked you up?
I was hungover and fucked up, shaking. I was so alcohol poisoned, and I didn't know it at the time. So when she said, "Could you raise your hand, Sam knew I'm an alcoholic," and I screamed at her and I said, "Go fuck yourself." And I equated myself at that time as a feral cat you picked up in the alley. I was angry. I don't want some drunk telling me how to run my life. But there was only one problem with that statement. I had not done a very good job. And I remembered something I heard from Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he wrote something about what you say when you talk to yourself. And it was about affirmations. And I knew that the wheels fell off. I'm screwed. This is the last stop. I've got no money, got no hair. I look like an old man. I look like shit. I have no friends. I have no family. I have no money. I got nowhere to go. I have nowhere to go but up because I'm flattened. I have nowhere to go. Nowhere to live. No car. It's a piece of shit. Barely runs. Sitting in a garage. I've got nowhere to go. And my brother had even said at one stage, I can't have you in my home where we don't know who you're going to be. Mm-hmm. And my brother is the kindest, sweetest, most amazing person in the world and never turned me away, ever. And that was the part where I cried because ultimately I was 11 years sober and he died at 61 of a heart attack. And I stayed sober. I stayed sober through that. And I remember getting sober thinking, if I get trapped in an elevator or my brother dies, I'm going to have to get drunk. I got trapped in an elevator, my brother died, and I didn't get drunk. And my cat died, and I stayed sober. And, I ended up in AA, pummeled to the ground, loathing my very existence. And I started to hear my story in meetings, and I hated the meetings, and I hated the people. It wasn't my story to get sober. And
Why'd you keep going back?
Because I had nowhere else to go. And everybody said, if you just come here, we'll help you. And so I did. I went to meetings and everybody said, if you just raise your hand and share, you'll be okay. And I don't know that it was that I hated them. It was that I didn't trust them. Everybody, they had their groups of people. They had friends. They were going for coffee. They were having lives. They were working. They were getting married. They were having children. And when the women, I would go to women's meetings, and I hated women. My mother's vernacular was hideous and heinous regarding women. My mother may or may not be a latent lesbian, but she wanted to have boys, and she got 2 girls and a gay guy. And my mother verbiage towards me was, I hated my own vagina. I hated my own boobs. I hated the fact that I was a girl. If I wore a dress, she called me a slut. If I put makeup on, she called me a slut. And I ended up in a business of, but
looking
I got
good.
sober, and I just didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust you. I didn't, I had to have women say, Debra, it's okay to be a girl. It's okay. I started mutilating myself when I was 6 years old. And I was a mess. And so now I'm in these meetings and people are telling me how to live and it's going to be okay and you don't have to drink and use. And I thought, how in God's name am I going to stay sober and apologize? Make the biggest amends that I ever had to make was to myself. My birth control method was abortions. I'm not proud of that. I'm sick over it. I had to gutturally, I cried at the deepest level of some of the things that I had done to myself and the men that I had hurt and the people that I hurt. And they talked about in AA being a liar and a thief. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. And I had people say, did you steal people's time? Yeah, I sure did. Did you steal their heart? Oh, yeah. I didn't steal your money. I stole your time and your heart. And I stepped on you because I just knew you didn't like me, And Peter, I'll tell you, it was the hardest. It wasn't so. The hardest part of this whole journey was having to look at the wreckage, what I had done to myself more than anything. And how am I going to learn to love this little girl? I was diagnosed with personality disorder and bipolar and all this crap. And the truth was, I had situational depression. It was easy for me to call myself Zelda when I was drunk because then I wouldn't have to take responsibility. So I called myself Zelda after Zelda Fitzgerald. She was drunk and it was glamorous.
And it's an alternate personality.
Exactly. And then poor little Debbie, well, she was just a wounded little girl. We can't get upset with her. So I created all these personas. And then little by little, and I'm still, I can honestly say after I'll be 20 years sober, February 2002, I got sober. I relapsed once. I got sober just before that. I went to that meeting in Beverly Hills, and I went and I drank, and then this girl came over, an actress's daughter actually came over. She became my first friend, and we dumped the alcohol and the men down the dumpster. And that was February 2nd, 2002. I said, there go the men, there go the alcohol. And AA doesn't like to hear this, but it's the truth, which is all these years later, it was Dr. Wayne Dyer was very instrumental in my verbiage, which was, I don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is poison. And if I've got a little girl inside of me that never grew up, I'm going to love and hug her and not poison her with alcohol. I'm going to allow her to be loved. And that was the verbiage I started using.
Yeah, because Dr. Dyer, I don't was he a 12-step guy? I know he stopped drinking.
Actually, I believe he was sober and he did speak at some meetings. But he had his own sort of spiritual journey. Which
clearly was working for him and many millions of other people.
Well, it's true. It was. And so I sort of took AA and I took what I needed and I left the rest. I'm a huge, to this day, firm believer in affirmations. And when people ask me to sponsor them, I have a real hard time with raising your hand and saying, hi, I'm Debra and I'm an alcoholic. What I did with that was this. Let's recognize what I am, and now I'm going to change the verbiage into a positive, which is, I don't drink alcohol. I'm not going to poison my inner child. What are you going to do if you have a bad day or someone beats you up verbally, or you're at work and we all have that inner child. We all are aware of this.
Yeah, and it was arrested, right? I mean, like I was arrested. I stopped growing the moment I started to drink because it was the only thing I wanted to do.
It's arrested development. Yep. That's right. And we all have these inner childs that have a paradigm that is so hard to get rid of. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that paradigm, the one that we were born with. So it's just an old story. It's like the hard drive in a computer. It is so hard to reprogram. And so if I shared a meeting, it's like, look, I got a sponsor. I started working the steps with that sponsor. I brought Dr. Wayne Dyer in. I then found Dr. Joe Dispenza and started reading a book called,
but it's
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself
by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've never heard that about, the story like a hard drive. It's just so hard to reprogram because that's what it is.
Well, because what happens, and I've learned this, in our formative years, that's when we learn trust, love, all of those safety things. And in my world, I didn't get that. There was no safe place from the time I was in that woman's womb. There was not a safe place on the planet. I popped out. It wasn't safe, ever. And so that was my world. Drugs and alcohol made the world safe for me to be able to maneuver. I even had a therapist once say, well, thank God for alcohol, or you wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of,
That's how I looked at it for a while.
Well, it's kind of true. But then as time went on, I became to realize that I can change the story. I can change my story. And I will go and visit the story like I have today, but I'll get out of there right away. Because I can honestly tell you, Peter, when I look in the mirror at 61 and the boobs are a little lower and the things are different, and I'm not looking at that beautiful 30-year-old girl that walked in a room and everybody wanted to meet her and like her, and I go out now and everybody's not jumping up and down to meet me. I am in such acceptance and in love with myself that I can wake up so tired, out of my mind, like, how am I going to get through this day? And I want to go to work and go, oh, be nice to me today because I'm really tired and wah. And you know what? That choice changes to this. Hey, I know you worked late last night. How you doing? Can I get you a cup of coffee? And then all of a sudden, guess what happens? I'm having a better day and I'm not so tired and I just worked 8 hours. You know what I mean? And so things change drastically when I recognize beyond a shadow of a doubt that number one, and this is a whole different show, which was the day that I was walking down the street in Santa Monica. My brother had died. Again, I'm sober. Everything's coming undone. I'm getting older in LA. I'm having a hard time. I wanted to get a job in a salon again, and I started another business in the interior design world. And it's really hard to recreate yourself in LA as an older person. LA is very prejudiced against anybody over the age of 40. Mm-hmm. Growing old in LA is not an ego boost. It's not. No matter how strong I think I am, to maneuver in that city is very difficult as you get older, which is part of the reason, a big reason I left, and I moved to Monterey. It's quieter. There's less traffic. There's less stress. I did get a job. I have a couple places that I work that just love me, and my age is not an issue.
Well, hold on. I want to take you back because you mentioned, okay, so you're 11 years sober. You're walking down the street in Santa Monica.
So
Your
I'm
brother
in Santa
passed
Monica.
away. Yeah.
My brother had died. By the way, I had gotten married a couple years after I got sober, but I don't want to get into that story. Uh-huh. But it was a marriage of convenience, and I was desperate. I'd never been married, and I wanted a companion, so I married someone much younger than me because I thought he was my friend, and I wanted security, and I was only sober 2 years, and looking back, I was still a newcomer acting on alcoholic impulses. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't take 40 years or 42 years of getting high, and then all of a sudden you're sober a year or two and your life is great. It doesn't work that way.
No, I learned the hard way.
It takes a long time.
Uh-huh.
So at 2 years sober, I made a choice to do something that I thought was going to give me security for the rest of my life. Well, that was just stupid. So anyway, our friendship was falling apart, and Stephen was dead, and I was just really struggling financially, and I just didn't, And so I was walking down the street, and I was just crying. I was crying every single day, and I was sober a long time. And I just, I'm too sober to be this sad. And I remember I sat down. It was hot, and it was in this August, I think July, August, in Santa Monica. I sat down on the steps of a church, and it was a non-denominational church. And it was 6 p.m, and they were just starting their service. And this woman invited me in, and I was in my workout clothes. I had a little booted T-shirt on, and I said, "Are you going to judge me because I'm wearing a booted T-shirt?" She said, "God, no." And I walked in, and something happened to me that day where I just started to float. I could cry talking about it. I just did a whole new surrender in sobriety. A whole new surrender, and I felt as though I had floated to the front of this church, and this band was playing, and there were these blue lights, and I just started singing to a song that I didn't know, and I started to pray, and I just was bawling and bawling and bawling and bawling. And the pastor was this woman. And I asked if I could talk to her. And I basically told her my life story. You know what she said to me? She said, you know what? Exact same thing. I have a twin sister. We're estranged. I was molested in the church when I was young. And she said, I'm going to pray with you, and we're going to ask God to relieve you from all of this resentment and anger. And can I just tell you, boys and girls, it was gone. It was gone. And that was right during the Me Too movement. I started getting really angry, and I had realized I hadn't addressed some of my childhood issues, because I had never considered myself to be angry in that regard. I was always sad and poor me, but I never had an anger issue. I'd never had anger issues, but this anger was welling up inside of me that I didn't understand.
And the complete surrender will show us that. Like
that's what happened.
More will be revealed, right?
And it was this complete on my knees surrender. So I started going to that church every Sunday at 6:00, and I got a whole new awareness of a God that had been taking care of me through the car accident, through the alcoholism, through the drug, So I attribute my sanity, and I must tell you that I feel sane. I spent this last year, everybody says, I cannot believe you just up and moved to a place, you don't know anybody. You just moved. And I did. I just packed up everything. I found an apartment in Monterey overlooking the ocean.
How long ago?
This was just during COVID last year.
Okay.
And I had manifested, I believe, 100% in changing our story, in changing our thinking, in manifesting our destiny. Thank you, Dr. Dyer. Thank you, Joe Dispenza, for giving me all of this meditation and tools. And thank you, AA, for giving me that leap into a new life, that we as drug addicts and alcoholics 100,000% are our own worst enemy. When my ego gets involved, I will crash the car. But if I take my ego and I set it aside and I become the dot on a butterfly and I go through my life not that important, because I'm not at all, the world will survive without Debra.
Yeah. And if you sit back and for somebody, it's kind of ironic, you worked in TV and film. Life is a movie, and it's going to play out in front of you the way it's going to play out, regardless.
It's going to play no matter what's going on. In fact, I remember thinking when all this COVID stuff started and all the political nonsense, I thought, Debra, you've got your choice. You've got choices here. You're either going to be fearful and buy into all of it, or I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right. I want to be peaceful. And so I thought, you know what? I don't like all the picketing and the rioting and the looting and the homelessness and all the anger and all the fighting and everything. Where's somewhere peaceful? And I literally threw the cards up into the air, and I thought I'm going to go to Tennessee or Texas or Carolinas, and I investigate all these places. I'm like, let's see, I don't like heat and humidity and bugs. And I ended up in Monterey, which is cool with no bugs, no traffic. And you know what? I spent all last year meditating. I made a little business for myself doing hair out of my apartment because everything was closed. So I met people, started doing people's hair. I didn't depend on the government. I didn't depend on you. I depended on me because I knew I could, and I knew that God would help me, because 20 years, 40 years, 60 years had proven to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm supposed to be here for a reason. I've got people to teach, things to talk about, and people to help, because I've got the experience to do so. And so that's what I do. That is why I'm living in this peaceful existence. Nobody can hurt me, and nobody can take me down. Not even you. Nope. You can't say anything to hurt me. And the greatest gift of all is to say, no, I'm sorry, but that doesn't work for me. That doesn't feel good. But thank you anyway.
The power of
no. Yeah. I'm able to say that now because guess what? I matter and I come first and I love me.
Yeah, my brother's a therapist out there, and he talked about, you've got to put, before you can help anybody else, you've got to get your oxygen mask on.
Put
And
that oxygen mask up on boys and girls. I was in LA this last few days and I was at a girl's house and she's 23 years sober and she was on a meeting and there's all these people, 20, 30 years sober. And I'm thinking, honey, this guy, so he was out of his mind. Fine. There are 100 million avenues out there.
yeah.
There's not just one way. AA is not the only way.
No, and that's why I love where you're talking about all this different stuff. Debra, your story is unbelievable. And I think it's one of those deals where I think Joe Walsh, who's sober, said it, you look back at your life and just everything absolutely makes sense, if you're lucky enough to get this thing and turn it around. And
Well, they say that I don't know if it's Buddhism or what, but if you can look back on your life and you can start to connect the dots, you can almost see the future. I drive over this mountain. It's desolate coming home from LA. It warrants, it begs one to really think. And I thought, here I am. None of this matters.
yeah,
None of this, the corporations don't matter. All of this anger and civil unrest and all of it, none of this matters. We're going to be born. We're going to die. The only thing I know for sure ever is I'm going to die. I just don't know when. And you know what? It's my job to love you and do the best I can. Do the best I can. Because I don't know what's going on in between. My brother died of a heart attack at 61, and that's playing on me a little bit right now in terms of he was as healthy as I am.
yeah. I gotta ask you though, how good did it feel, or did it feel? What did it feel like? I guess to have 11 years sober. I'm guessing you shared some time with him after you got sober. That had to feel good.
And let me tell you, when I got sober, my brother came. This is the part where it's way too emotional for me, even to this day, and it's been 6 years. As of August 15th, he died August 15th at 2 p.m, and I will never forget it. I went into such a denial and sadness for a long time. I had to see a therapist because I shared at a meeting. I said, my brother died and I can't get over it. It had been like 2 years. He said, you're in Arrested Development. The event is still happening every single day for you. And it was. So he helped me. And then I found Dr. Dispenza. So Stephen and I, thank God, I was sober. He drove from Monterey to Southern California. It's a 5.5-hour drive to give me my 1-year cake.
Oh, man.
And then my 2-year cake. And then he had a son. They got a son. And they moved to Palm Springs. And this is the man who said to me when I lived with him, I have to ask you to leave because I don't know who you're going to be and we're afraid. Do you know, I was sober a long time before I realized how hard that must have been for him.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Palm Springs. Guess what the conversation was now? Oh, why don't you move to Palm Springs? We'd love to have you here. Then, and I used to go almost every weekend. It was my home away from home. I had a bedroom there. They left me for a week with my nephew while they went back to Monterey, cleaned up the house, got more stuff, went back. I designed and organized everything. I took care of my nephew. They trusted me implicitly with their home and with their child. And then when my nephew was 7, he was a drug baby, adopted because my brother was gay. And when he was 7, he was displaying a lot of addict behavior, which I shared with my brother. And they got him in a child's outpatient care with Betty Ford because of Aunt Debra. And Tyler went into little weekly classes because my brother listened to me. in regards to my nephews. So, you know, when we were on the phone every day. We were sharing every single day. He was my person, Peter, my person. Never occurred to me that he would die so quickly, out of nowhere.
Did that make you more grateful for relationships in the present day? And
it definitely let me tell you something.
Or does it breed fear?
It changed the game. It changed the game. It changed the game 100,000%. But not for what happened was I have a twin sister, I told you that. And I always wanted to be her. She's ugly as a mud fence. She was always unattractive and homely. She was always really, really smart and always let me know that. She was never we were never close ever. And when Stephen died, she stole money from me because I'd cash at his house. She, they started packing up the house. They had a cremation of my brother, which I didn't even know about till later. I had to ambush her to go get my stuff and to get a little jar with my brother's ashes. I stayed sober in all of this.
Yeah.
I went out there. My brother's family was there. They treated me like they still treated me like I was pathetic little drunk Debbie. I had to call my sponsor and I had to ask her if I was dead or alive because I was in some weird world and there was alcohol everywhere and everyone's drinking and taking Xanax and I was the only sober person.
And it's the most justifiable thing as an alcoholic or drug addict. Like if you're ever going to get fucked up, like this is where you can give yourself the pass. But you call your sponsor instead.
I called my sponsor. I'm 11 years sober. And this is really bizarre. I knew their neighbors because they'd come over and I'd been out there and I knew they had all this acres, like 5 acres between. Like you had to drive to the next property. So I asked my brother's husband, can I borrow your truck? And I drove over to the neighbor's house because I knew them and I knew their little farm. And I just wanted to be with their horses. And they were the ones that called me and said, you need to get here. And my sister drove from Santa Cruz, came to pick me up in L.A. and we drove out there. Not a word was said the entire way. As soon as she got there, she took the money. Only her and Chuck knew where it was. And so I was 11 years sober, thank God. Had it been any sooner, I don't know that I would have stayed sober. The way I was treated, all of it. I called my sponsor. It was 112 degrees. My money's gone. I called my sponsor. I drove over to the neighbors. They had been sober over 20 years. I didn't know this. Both of them.
Wow.
And so they let me stay at their house. I spent the night there, and I went out in 112 degree weather, and I sat with the horses. And I didn't know which end was up. It never occurred to me for 1 second to take a drink or a drug. Didn't occur to me. Didn't even occur to me because I knew my brother had gone on vacation. I was really fucked up. I went headlong into it. Then I got home and I couldn't. I'd only stayed one night. I called a girlfriend and she came and picked me up because it was that unbearable at my brother's house. Here's what I knew. Here's me in the middle of these people drinking. I'm going, how can I be of service? Is there anything I can do for anyone? I was like in some weird world. Yeah. Not one person hugged me. Not one person said, I'm sorry, Debbie. Not one person acknowledged that he was my brother. Then 2 weeks later, my sister went out there. Stephen had been cremated, which I didn't know anything about. And my sister was packing all my stuff and having a garage sale. And by the way, Chuck had already taken Tyler, my nephew, and moved to Reno, where his Chuck's family was.
Okay.
And it was a collapse of my world. It was my nephew was gone. My things were gone. My brother's gone. It was a complete and utter collapse. I'm an orphan now. Poor me. If there was any moment, poor me, that was it.
And you were able to pull, you pull through that. And now you're able to share that story with other women, with me, with people that are listening right now.
You know what? All I can say, if anybody's out there crying right now, because you should be, because it's a tragic story. You know what? I'll tell you something. If you're up against the wall, there's 100 million ways that you can get help. Because life is short. You're here, you live, and then you die. And whatever happens in between is all your choice. If you're high now, you got a choice. The wheels are falling off, you got a choice. And people that love themselves do not, under any circumstances, have to get high. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We want to help ourselves, and we want to help others.
I love it.
Help one another and spread love and joy. And love yourself. That's all I got, man.
You've said it all. Debra, I thank you so much for your time. This is going to be up tomorrow afternoon probably, so I'll send you a link to it.
Send me a link, because I have no idea how to.
Yeah, I'll send you a link and you can listen to it. As just another alcoholic, it just felt it was what I needed, so I appreciate you.
Thank you. You know, I don't like to tell the story and go for that long. Like, I need to sit and get my feet on the ground now. It takes a minute to get my feet back on the ground, look at the ocean, know where I am, move forward with who am I going to help today, and very quietly.
Thank you so much.
Okay. God bless. Have a beautiful day, and hopefully maybe meet one day.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Peter. Appreciate it.
See you there, Debra. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to The Payoff with Pete. Once again, I'm Pete Souza. And of course, we are part of the Rogue Media Network. All kinds of good podcasts you can find at roguemedianetwork.com. And of course, you can find this podcast and all those other ones wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, other spots like that. If you have a quick second, I want you to go ahead and give back a little bit to what has so freely given to you. No, I'm just kidding, but I would love for you to go to the Rogue Media website and go ahead and click on a survey at the top. It's ROGUE, that is Rogue, the word media network, roguemedianetwork.com. Take the survey. Come on, you don't have to pay anything for this. Take the survey. Thank you.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.